What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL, joined as always by my co host, Jonathan Holder. Jonathan, what's going on, brother?
Man, it is a beautiful day today. It's just glad to be here talking Falcons football. Just want to say, thank you to my beautiful wife, Emma. She allows me to do this every single week,
There you
and
go.
her, keeping her company is her friend Marie Bucata, and so I just want to give her a shout out because she asked for one. So,
There you go.
uh,
There you go. Hey, look, man,
so
without the support of our wives, this, like, you couldn't do it, right? Like, I couldn't do it.
absolutely.
You couldn't do it. Like, we enjoy the fact that all the folks pop in the chat, but if that old saying, happy wife, happy life, and it's true to an extent. Like, if we got on their nerves doing this stuff, then uh, it wouldn't be long lived. But we got a handful of things to get into and talk about tonight. So, unlike last time where I missed the intro, this time I shall not miss the intro. And let's just get into it. Now, the Atlanta, like as the title says, the Atlanta Falcons have created a mess, and now we have to hear about it. I find this interesting. Hold up, hold tight before I get too much
Oh,
into this. What's up, Fred? Happy birthday, good sir.
happy
Uh,
birthday! And just for that, even though no money,
that's all right. Hey, yeah,
happy
that's all right.
birthday, Mister Butts.
And yes, Nick, y'all will have to forgive me. I decided yesterday that I had nothing else to do, and I might as well come down with a sore throat. So now y'all get to hear the beautiful raspy tones of sick JR. But we'll see how it goes. But anyway, so back to our beloved team. We have spent the past 2 years um, being basically berated for not having a QB.
Yep.
Was it whether it was from the oh, you should have drafted Justin Fields, or who, by the way, right now is being talked about being put on like kick return and punt return duties. So
Yeah.
take that for what it is. Um, anyway, so we get berated for not drafting Justin Fields and taking Kyle Pitts instead. And then, we get berated for treating Matt Ryan. The team gets berated for treating Matt Ryan the way they did, so to speak, and shipping him off to Indy for just a third round pick and all this, crap. And then you get into the Lamar Jackson. Oh, well, to come out so quickly and say that y'all weren't even going to go after Lamar Jackson. Like, we got drug over the coals for that.
Yep.
And then you get into this offseason. And I'm already getting tired of the conversation, so to speak, but it feels like it just won't go away. You go out and you get the belle of the ball for the second season in a row, mind you. Last year you got Jesse Bates in free
Yep.
agency. This year you get Kirk Cousins, right? You get the belle of the ball, the best quarterback on the market. Um, you get him to come to Atlanta. Like, we have been over it ad nauseum now how the contract is structured. Kurt himself, regardless of whether I think like there is a human side of it, obviously, but he's also a long NFL vet, a long standing NFL vet. He knows how these things go. He knows that contracts are only as long as guaranteed monies are.
Yep.
Like, he himself, who has gotten more guaranteed contracts than anybody else in football, like more fully guaranteed contracts, knows this. He knows that the length of the contract is what is the guaranteed money. Okay.
Yep.
We add other years so that we can spread cap things around and do things like that to make it easier, right? So they go into the draft. We obviously know they pick Michael Penix at 8. And now the team that has been berated for the past 2 years for not having enough at quarterback
Yep.
now is being drug over the coals because they got too much at quarterback.
I mean, Rich Eisen was almost in tears with how we have treated the saintly Kirk Cousins. Apparently, like it's almost like, look, okay, if if you hell, I would even say the same thing if we had a couple of years ago or a few years back, if we had been the ones that got Tom Brady, right? Even if you, because you know that if you're getting Tom Brady at what 39, 40 years old when you signed him, you know, yes, Tom Brady is going to play another couple of years. At most, he was going to play two, maybe three more years at
Mm-hmm.
most. Okay, I don't care what kind of shape he keeps himself in. He's not playing past that. So even in that scenario, I would begrudge anybody getting drafting a quarterback wherever they wanted to draft him as a backup, a succession plan to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I could even see, I could maybe understand if you were talking about Tom Brady, one of the greatest quarterbacks that has ever played the game. I could maybe see it. We're talking about Kirk Cousins. And
Right.
I think Kirk Cousins is a phenomenal quarterback. I think
Like
Kirk Cousins is going to be a good quarterback for us.
compared to what we've had, like everybody comes up to me, like people who at work who know me, like obviously know that I'm a huge Falcons fan. Like they obviously know that, right? You can't, like, the analogy I always use is you in your life have never had to ask a vegan if they're vegan because they'll tell you, right?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like, when you're passionate about something and you enjoy something, you tend to talk about it, right?
Yep.
Tend to bring it up. Hence, we're doing this. So everybody comes up to me. I'm like, oh man, what do you think about the pick? What do you think about the pick? I got no problem with the pick. Like, oh, what about with Cousins or whatever? Okay, my biggest issue with Cousins, and I think I've said it here on the show more than once, was the fact that in 2 or 3 years you're gonna have to do this again. You're gonna be in the QB hunt again. That was my biggest issue. Also, like, you want to add into the fact that, historically Kirk Cousins tends to, like, shrink in primetime games and shrink in the big spotlight games. That was the biggest thing. He couldn't win in prime time. He couldn't win at night, couldn't win when all the eyes were on him. And so there were negatives to be had about Kirk Cousins. Like you said, he's not Tom Brady. Okay. Is he marketably better than anything we've had for the past 2 years? Yes.
Absolutely.
It's in bounds. Are we going to go from a team that has been relying on defense to win you games and a run game to above average, QB play like overnight? Automatically. And so to that point, what is the, like, why are people still griping? Like, I got it the night of. Like, I'll full on say it. I mean, I was slightly flabbergasted, sitting here. Y'all can go back and watch the tape. Me and you kind of like shouted at each other a little bit that night.
Yep.
As me and you are wont to do every now and again. We ain't been friends this long without shouting at each other.
Yeah.
But the more you stop and think about it, the more it's like, okay, is it the best move in the world? Time will tell, but time will tell with any move.
Yeah.
Like right now, the headlines, in my opinion, if you want to rag on somebody, if you want to drag somebody through the coals, should be like Rashee Rice, who continues to, like, absolutely F up.
Yeah.
He's got a warrant out, I think, now for his arrest for, uh, or at least wants to be talked to by the Dallas PD for an assault in a club, coming 2 weeks or so after uh, having that high speed wreck on the interstate in Kansas City. So, like, that's what the NFL media should be talking about. If you want to drag somebody over the coals for quarterback decisions, how about Denver Broncos with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, and then drafting Bo Nix at 12?
Yeah.
Like, the pick of Bo Nix at 12 does nothing but validate Penix at 8 to me. Because if you're willing to take Bo Nix at 12, that validates all the other rumors that Penix wasn't going to make it past 13. And whether you think that they got scared or whatever, that they pivoted on their strategy of, it might be easier to come back up for Latu versus taking Latu at 8.
Yeah.
Like, because you can't tell me that they didn't want to walk into that press conference Thursday night with Penix and Latu.
If they had done that, then like we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Nobody would have cared. Nobody would have
No.
cared. And so, so I feel I'm with David. David Breland
Well,
says they just don't like the Falcons. That's what it starts to feel like, right?
Yeah, well, and I mentioned this before the show. Like, to me, what this feels like, or what it feels like to me, is like, or what the surprising thing to me is, they won't talk about us in just about any other aspect. We're not relevant to talk about in any other aspect, except for everybody wants to just be able to criticize the moves we make at QB. And look, I'm not saying we're above criticism for the last 2 years and how that's been handled, or even for this pick. Like, I'm totally down if somebody wants to question the pick. I have no problems with that. If somebody didn't like the pick, if they think they should have gone a different route, I've already been on record on this show saying if I had been involved in the draft, I probably don't take Penix. Now,
Yeah, right.
would I have regretted that a couple seasons down the line? Possibly. But at the same time, like, if I get Kirk Cousins, I want, and just as a fan, and that colors that, right? As a fan, I want that badass fire breather off the edge. And
Right.
I thought Latu was that guy. Okay, that's who I thought was the guy. I would have picked him. So I'm not, don't come to me and be like, oh, it's just you like it because that's the way you would have gone. No, I would have gone different.
Oh yeah.
However,
like I'd have taken Turner. Hey.
but at the same time, at the end of the day, it just feels like they don't care unless they feel like we screwed up, and then they're like, oh,
that's the only time.
This is free like clicks for the rest of the summer in the dead period of the NFL, because that's all you ever hear about at that point.
Exactly, and that's why,
even 2 years down the road, we still hear about the Lamar Jackson stuff when that was total BS.
Yep.
That anybody, included whether it was us or anybody else, had a shot at Lamar Jackson. Nobody did, and 100%. They still want to bring it up, and it's just
Fred Butts with $5. We appreciate you greatly. Fans are never happy. It's fire Rich, now it's fire Fontenot, and I'm tired of Kirk crying. Kirk ain't even started crying. Like, only thing you've heard as far as Kirk is like his agent, and his agent's supposed to be like wholly 100% on his side, so to speak. So no, Kirk's fine. He'll be a professional. I can promise you.
Look, and I don't even have a problem with Kirk coming, even if he himself were to flat out come out and say, like, I mean, I was shocked,
right?
I was shocked, like, because the night of this pick, okay, the night of this pick. Now you didn't hear the agent say anything else about this later on, but from his people, which means from his agent, the night of the pick, what they heard was that Kirk knew from the team that a QB would be in consideration. Yep. They were just surprised that it was at the 8th pick in the draft.
Exactly.
That's it. So he knew they were looking for a QB to either sit under him for a couple of years wherever they were picked. He just figured, like all of us did, I figured the guy you were probably picking was going to be a Spencer Rattler in the 3rd, 4th round, which I don't think he went in the 4th.
Fifth, I believe.
5th.
He fell further than a lot of people thought. But anyway, Fred with another $5 says the media doesn't like it because they know that we're going to be good for a long time. I mean, that's the prevailing thought, right? That's what, in your mind, what ends up justifying you doing what you did, is that you feel like you're going to be good for the next few years. Chris, our resident Oregon fan, he goes, Bo Nix was a top 10 player, and I would die on that hill. Chris, I appreciate you. If I'll say this, like, I don't think, like, him and Penix were in a lot of ways closer, different styles. Like, to me, what Penix gives you with deep ball accuracy and stuff like that, I know the numbers speak differently. I'm just talking about what I see on tape. Bo Nix gives you with athleticism. So, but I'm talking about the general consensus. Nobody that I listened to really thought that either Penix nor Bo Nix were going to go on the top. So that was the point I was trying to make. So I get you. Our buddies, one time for the fans up in there, he says, y'all hit that like button ASAP. Shout out to Pound for Pound. We great.
Absolutely, man.
Glad y'all are in here tonight, guys. Appreciate y'all's support. And then Andrew Bato says, "What's up, fellas? How are we feeling now that the draft is over?"
I can't
I,
wait for the season to start.
yeah, I'll tell you this. There, like I said, we could talk all day long about how Penix this or Penix that, but me myself, I'm kind of done with it in a sense. Like I'm tired of hearing about it, and I'm tired of like talking about it, right? Because at this point, if everything goes the way they want it to go, at worst for the next 2 years, you got a very high end backup. Then so be it. There's no guarantee that anybody is going to hit, whether it's Quinyon Mitchell, whether it's Dallas Turner, Latu, doesn't matter. Like in 5 years, we'll revisit this if I'm even still talking about the Falcons in 5 years. Like we'll revisit this and saying, yes, that was an amazing pick because Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot are still here. But if not, we'll be talking about well, whatever, that was a wasted first round pick, yada yada yada. Right. So with that being said, I think it's something that we'll talk about in the future as far as the rest of the draft goes. A week later, I feel really good about where the defensive line is. I think I even saw where like PFF had us ranked as like the most improved defensive line, which I did kind of find like comical in a sense because both of our sack leaders didn't return. So,
Well, as of yet, but
well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we haven't seen rookie numbers, but if was it Braylon Trice, I think,
yeah,
or Dorless, one of them two.
it was Trice.
I think it was Trice had an Instagram photo of him at number 48. So, yeah,
Well, maybe not Bud Dupree, maybe Ruben Calais Campbell.
maybe. Who knows? Who knows? But I'm really excited about what those three defensive linemen that we brought in, could bring to this rotation. I think
Yeah.
it's, Aurora is untapped potential. That's the only one I kind of scratch my head on, especially with like Johnny Newton being there. Same thing with Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
Like I kind of scratch my head a little bit, but I chalk that up as a traits pick. Like he had all the traits that they wanted. And if you watch that little 14-minute video that the Falcons put out earlier this afternoon, like Aurora was ready to play the night he got drafted. Like that dude was pumped and jacked and ready to go. So I am, yeah, because like, yeah, Nighthawk brings up a good point. Newton might have had like shorter arms. It seems like
Length is definitely something that we're hearing a lot that they really, really value.
Right. I mean, I'm surprised there isn't any like really good memes about that right now.
And Andrew, like you're hoping he's a Grady Jarrett type of player because you're not happy with him at pick 35. I'll be honest, that was okay outside of the Penix pick. Okay, the rest of the draft, the one pick that when I heard his name called out, I was like, who, what?
Yeah,
Like
there's always
I didn't know. Well, but it reminded me of the Bergeron pick last year. Like that was not a name that I might have looked at the name, but I didn't. It wasn't even a guy that I looked at as potential a guy we would pick. So when his name got called, I was in the same boat of like, wait, what?
and I think slotting that guy in, him and Dorless both into that line with Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata, because you got to think about last year, like especially down the stretch when Grady went out. Onyemata was dinged up, and you were relying on guys like Albert Huggins, who wasn't a bad player, and you're also like relying on Taquan Graham, who wasn't like fully back from injury himself. Like you're relying on those guys heavily, and a bunch of like Lael London. There's a dude in London with a last name London, but you're relying on those guys to play heavy snaps, and those guys are like depth rotational pieces at best. So what you're hoping for is that you've just injected your defensive line with some real like force.
with some
You know,
youth,
yeah,
and some juice.
that's it. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what you're hoping for. And with Rook, all I want to see from him this year is when he does come in, just chaos. I just want to see.
Right.
I want
Yeah.
to see him just cause chaos.
And a
Like,
lot of those guys, something when you watch the tape, you should notice and should give you kind of an idea of what they want to try to do on this D line. A lot of those guys, Braylon Trice, Brandon Dorless, Rook Ororo, are really like they're good at this like stunt and twist game. You
yeah,
know, they're good at like that wrapping around and coming through those holes. So you could get a real idea of what we're going to try to do defensively in this 3-4 front. Uh, they're putting now, I'll say this, they're putting a lot of faith in what um what Arnold Ebiketie is going to do, as far as going back to that 3-4 front, having him, stand up in a 2-point stance more than likely. So they're expecting a lot out of him, and I wonder if they're at least in a rotational sense. I'd be interested to see if we'd start to see D'Angelo Malone get back into a rotation because he seemed like a forgotten guy last year.
mhm.
So it'll be his third year in the league as well. So
Well, if it, the we'll see. Does he actually put more effort into practice? Because I think that's what we came to
right to
believe
understand. Yep.
last year was that guys maybe super talented, but he just doesn't like put it. He doesn't put the effort in on the practice field. So they weren't. He wasn't going to make the be on the field one game day.
Right. Well, we'll see what. And then Andrew brings up, what do you guys think of that linebacker we drafted from Notre Dame in the 5th round? JT Bertrand? No, it's not Bertrand. It's
Bertrand.
Bertrand. He says whatever his last name is. I think he's going to like start out. He's going to be special teams demon. Um, but I think he has the smarts and the athleticism to add depth to that room, especially with Troy Anderson coming off of that pectoral injury and him coming back from that. I think this gives that room some much needed depth because like Landman was a diamond in the rough. He was definitely, you weren't expecting
No.
that out of Landman, right? Um, so I don't know if it's because it's a new regime, coaching staff wise, does like who has the upper hand? Is it Landman? Is it Anderson? Or now is it their guy Bertrand? Like I think Caden Ellis was obviously a Brian Nielsen guy,
Yeah.
but I think he gives you enough and showed enough to where with Dave Huxtable still being here, with Jerry Gray still being here from last year, that they'll vouch for him enough as far as linebacker stuff goes. So I'll be interested to see how the rest of that linebacker room fills out. What's
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've watched a little bit, but I'll say this: like, I'm pretty sure Damsky is a guy that, like, when it comes to when he starts talking about defensive guys, especially, like, I like his word on it.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's
I
got
feel
a
like I could trust him, and he seems like he likes this guy a lot. So,
right.
I'm told like from what I've seen, this guy is like he can go. He's not like the ultra burner at linebacker, but he still can go sideline to sideline. He's got really good instincts. He's a really good tackler,
Mhm.
and he just seems like he has a good feel for where he needs to be and is in the right place at the right time more times than not.
Right.
So like he seemed the guy led his team in tackles for what 3 seasons.
Yep. Hmm.
So and it's not a small college.
No.
So he's going up against like legit college talent, and he's still coming away with team leading tackles every single season. For 3 seasons. then there's something there. There has to be something there.
Right. I completely agree. Millie Mills says, P for P, what's up? What's going on?
What
Millie,
up, Millie?
same thing with Bradley
Hey,
Burnett. He says,
by the way, Millie, I appreciate, even if you only showed up for just a little bit, I appreciate you showing up on Saturday.
there you go. Bradley Burnett says, hello, howdy, everyone. What's going on, Bradley? Same thing with Carrie. Says, Falcon fans, hope everyone is doing well. Yeah, I hope everybody is
Doing
doing well.
great.
This I missed this earlier, but Wavy 2X brought up a good point. Says I can't wait until we're able to see Penix in the preseason game. It's definitely going to make preseason fun. Like,
Yes.
I go I go to those games anyway, as many of them as I can, just because they're cheap tickets. So, but
Yeah.
it is going to be fun to when the backups do start coming in. Now, Mike O has an interesting point. He goes, I'm not sold yet on Lake, and I'm assuming you're talking about Jimmy Lake. He says, I'm wondering how much involvement Raheem will have on the defense. I don't know about Raheem. I think Raheem seems more like he wants to be like the CEO kind of deal of the team. But I wonder how much like Jerry Gray and Dave Huxtable, like that brain trust of, Jimmy Lake, Jerry Gray, and Dave Huxtable, because yeah, it is going to be interesting because yes, Jimmy Lake very briefly was the head coach of the Washington Huskies. He was their defensive coordinator for a while, and under him, they played very well. But that's college, right? We always talk about like how a coach or like a player's game is going to translate from college to, uh, college to the pros. But the same can be said for a coach, right? Like, is what they're dialing up going to translate? At least he's used to working with college age kids. And if they are trying to go with more of a youth movement on the defensive side of the ball, it shouldn't be as much of a culture shock in that aspect when from Jimmy Lake. But I will be interested to see what kind of impact the defense is going to have this year. What are your thoughts on? Are you concerned at all about Jimmy Lake?
No. I think you're right in that Raheem is probably going to be more of a CEO, but I do think he brings in Lake because he's either a guy that he truly trusts him in whatever system he wants to run, or he wants to run a certain system and he knows that Jimmy Lake will run that system.
Right.
Or even after they get hired on, they go over like here's the kind of concepts I like, that I want us to run, and Jimmy Lake is like, all right, cool, we can do that.
Right. We can do that. Yeah.
Whatever the case may be. So at the end of the day, like I don't know enough about Jimmy Lake. But at the end of the day, like I have to trust Raheem that he brought this guy in for a reason.
So it's funny that we got on this subject because this popped up on my timeline a little bit before we went live. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger here. Okay, so this is the coverages that the LA Charger LA Rams, excuse me, ran last year under Raheem Morris, right? So if Jimmy Lake is going to run his system, then you can expect a lot of cover three and a lot of quarters coverage. Yeah. That was the two main. So for that, that's that heavy influence of, the Tampa 2, which the Tampa 2 defense, if I'm not mistaken, is really just a cover three because you're dropping that middle linebacker into the middle of the field to cover that middle part where you got your two high safeties. So you got that's where those corners come in. You got your two high safeties and your two corners. They're covering the corners. Your cover threes, your two high safeties. Corners are man to man, which Jimmy talked about. The corners playing man to man. So you got your two high safeties, and then you got your middle linebacker in the middle of the field. Somebody, if I misspoke, y'all correct me in the comments. I know y'all will, but
Yeah.
but there you can see what the breakdown really is it's going to be a lot of cover three and it's going to be a lot of quarters coverages. So that's what we should expect to run, which I would not be surprised one bit if we get the addition of Akio Witherspoon or the safety's last name is Johnson. It's
John, I think it's John Johnson or
John
James
Johnson,
Johnston.
maybe. Yeah, it's a JJ name.
Yes.
So, so who is that? Okay, I saw somebody on Twitter posted a number. I was like, oh snap, our jerseys finally dropping. But no, they're not. That's for the Cardinals. I would imagine that we should start seeing some of that soon because you do have rookie minicamp starting on Friday. Millie's messing with you about your game. He said, "Oh, okay, old school joint. That's why I look like that." He said, "Keep streaming, bro. I'll pop in from time to time, if not on the game myself." Yeah, if y'all
Hey,
missed it, Jonathan popped up with a surprise stream on Saturday, playing what was it, Fallout 97? Is that what you were
yeah,
playing?
it was the Fallout, the original Fallout game released in '97, and the main reason why my original thought was either Fallout 4 or Fallout 76 was what I was going to stream, but for you guys on the other end that would be watching it, it was kind of choppy. It
Right.
wasn't a really good experience, so that I went with the original Fallout. But it was. It's just something that I've wanted to do for a while. I want to see how you guys enjoy, if you guys liked it or what have you. So, but yeah, I plan to do it again this Saturday if I can
There you go.
to uh, basically just play for a couple of hours. And if anybody wants to drop in and talk Falcons football while I'm streaming a game, then that's fine. We can talk about that. We can talk about really whatever you want to talk about.
There you go.
I don't want to talk about the only things that I do not want to talk about in that stream would be politics, religion. Leave those out of it. We can pretty much talk about anything else you want to talk about.
Yeah, one piece of advice I got from my daddy a long time ago: if you ever wanted to start a fight, tell people your opinion on politics and tell people your opinion on religion.
Religion.
Like
Yep.
most people know where I stand on the second part, but I don't. We ain't trying to turn this into a sermon because that ain't what y'all are here for. If y'all are, you just hit me up in the DMs and we can chat. Ricky Smith said, "What's up, everybody? Just left Aaron Freeman's channel. That guy needs to take a deep breath. Man, we love Aaron."
Yeah.
Like
So I-
it took me a while. Okay, and I have told Aaron this to his face before. Like he's one of the reasons why I started doing this because it he is very much like sarcastic by nature. And his sarcasm tends to trend towards like what most people would say is like a negative slant.
yep.
But after I've gotten to know him a little bit better, and it's not as serious as he comes off, a lot of the times. But that's just Aaron. But no, that did make me chuckle.
Yeah, I remember I would get super annoyed with him on Twitter years ago, back when he was still doing the before he did the podcast that he does now.
Oh yeah, he was doing the other one, the
Yeah,
Falcons.
yeah, the Falcons podcast, and he was just uh, I was super annoyed, and I blocked him for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But I've come around. He's about, and we've obviously had him on the show.
Oh yeah. He came in
Uh,
on draft night.
oh
So
yeah, and getting to know him, he's a very cool dude that sometimes has opinions that I don't necessarily agree with.
and that's
That's what it
fine.
boils down
Like
to,
right
and
at
that
the
is
end of the
perfectly
day,
fine.
yeah, we don't want to live in an echo chamber.
No,
Nick says, try playing Madden. Maybe
I can
give
try,
him.
but man, I'm telling you, it's like
It
anything
gets
that's
choppy, man.
yeah, anything
Yeah.
that has like fast action of any kind is probably going to be kind of rough. And we can only go up to 720p on the stream. We can't go any higher than that.
Yeah, not right
So
now. We can't. I mean, well,
yeah,
unless we paid for a higher tier, but
yeah.
we'll. Fred, I think you're right. I think it does come out on the 12th. Is what I thought I heard. Either that, or I thought I also heard the 9th. As far as the schedule, but that'll be something else that we break down next week. Next week we'll have we'll have rookie minicamp to talk about, and we'll have the the schedule to take a look at. Uh, let's see. Millie says, "Jr. Troy at edge. Do you think it can work?" I just got a strange feeling. Him and Lake are going to, or Heem and Lake are going to try that. His size and speed just screams it. I could see them using him as a like blitzing backer. I don't know if I would truly put him on the edge. Um, but they may like, especially coming back, they may reduce his role. I guess it just depends on how quick he picks up the offense. It might be a deal where because that's kind of how Caden got on the field for New Orleans before he signed with us was as more of a blitzing backer. And with the amount of pressures and creepers and stuff like that that Raheem has like run in the past, I could see them doing that, throwing him in there and having him rush the passer. But I mean, I myself wouldn't necessarily be against it, but I think one of the bigger issues with Troy is he hasn't been able to focus on one position. Like through his college career, he was, running back, quarterback, defensive end, linebacker, you know.
Yeah,
And so when he was drafted here, that was one of the things that you were like, okay, this dude's smart. He, can handle a lot of different things. But if we focus him on one thing, will that take his game even higher? And so I think that's one of the thoughts there is allowing him to focus. But it wouldn't shock me. Uh, Ricky says, so do y'all actually think we have another easy schedule? Because I don't. I think us in New Orleans are, as far as what is rated,
yeah.
we have the two easiest schedules. Um, so
Well,
every
I've talked about this at the when it comes to the NFL because of the parity in the league.
Mhm.
Like one year, what looks like a tough schedule could be the easiest schedule. It could like I think when you look back at the end of the season, you're like, oh, that was like one of the easiest schedules in the entire league. Versus, hey, these guys got the strength schedule is like the like what the winning percentage is like 0.435 or something like that, and you get look at the end of the season, you got like three or four division winners that you played against, and a bunch of teams that were in the playoffs, and
right,
all this other stuff. So you just never know from year to year. So I don't look at any schedule and be like, oh, that's an easy schedule that we should make the playoffs with that schedule, because you just never know.
right, and you're always going to have a like worst to first type situation. But because like I mean, take a look at the Rams last year. It was supposed to be, and same thing with the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs were supposed to be in a rebuilding year and like a retooling year, and they go and win the whole thing. The
Yeah.
Rams, everybody kind of had counted them out because of the youth movement, and they go on a good run.
Well, there
So,
there was well there was some talk about McVay like retiring
well, yeah, during the
in
all
that offseason.
and so, but I'm kind of with Millie though. Like if Kirk can come in here and be Kirk, I'm not worried about no team. We're gonna score. Y'all just keep up, so to speak. And that's the deal. Is like as much as we're making about the Penix deal, if Kirk and Zach Robinson hit the ground running, that's going to have such a beneficial effect on our defense. Like me and Jonathan have been like researching for an upcoming video that we're going to do, hopefully this week maybe. But I was looking at a game last year trying to, uh, like figure out some things, and the amount of drives that went like 4 plays punt, three plays punt, interception, fumble. Like the amount of times like our offense was just barely on the field. Like it's no wonder that the defense itself wore down, as the season went on. So I I'm really hoping that in and of itself is a positive effect on the team with being able to move the ball with our big three, and Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London. Not only that, and then you're adding in The other pieces, the Ray McLeods, the Darnell Moonies, the
Rondale Moore.
Rondell Moore, the Washington kid out of Illinois, who looks like could be a real nice pickup as
Yeah.
far as like uh draft diamonds. Like he looks like
He's like a slightly lesser version of Drake, really, like London.
right, right. So Fred asks, what are y'all looking forward to in training camp? I'm really looking forward to. I know this is going to sound like geeky and nerdy, but I'm really looking forward to like what is the like how different does the offense formationally look? Like does is Zach Robinson Zach Robinson, is he going to lean on what his mentor, Sean McVay did? Like is it going to be a heavy 11 personnel? Like we talk about Rondell Moore, we talk about uh Darnell Mooney, we talk about Ray McLeod, but we paid Charlie Warner, we gave him a 3-year contract,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to be a more all around tight end.
But I don't. I mean, I honestly think he's going to be. Uh, I think he will be closer to a Levine Toilolo. I think like with maybe even lesser than that when it comes to receptions. I just don't know if he'll get that many chances. But I think he's going to be one of those guys that will be everybody's focused on everybody else. He kind of gets lost in the wash, and you throw it to him, and there's nobody around him because nobody's paying attention to him. He'll get those kinds of catches from time to time. But I think he's brought in to be a another part of the running game. That's what I think.
Well, here's the deal. Like Josh Gillum brings up an interesting point, right? He says the Rams ran 11 personnel like 93% of their snaps last year, which I don't know if it was 93. I know it was the most in the league. I thought I saw like 91, but that's splitting hairs. I'm not going to sit here and argue with that.
Mhm.
Now he says, I think we need another wide receiver because if Drake goes down, we're screwed, in my opinion, which I would agree. Darnell Mooney can he go back to what he was the year he caught 1,000 yards? Was that an outlier? But anyway, the reason why I bring this up is because when Sean McVay first got to LA, in his mind, his offense was going to actually look a lot more like Shanahan's.
Mhm.
Like they thought that they were going to live in 12 and 13 personnel. And so, but the personnel that he had and the fact that guys like Robert Woods and then Cooper Kupp and now Puka Nakua could block like a tight end.
Yeah.
Like what they do a lot of things in 11 personnel that act like 12 personnel. You see what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
even now with the like condensed formations, which with the condensed formations and you're using Puka Nakua or Cooper Kupp in a bunch, it allows them to be able to get to the defender much quicker and to where the size isn't necessary like is negated a little bit more. Their angles are a little different. And so the reason why I say all that is because uh right now, the way our team is constructed this year, you do have more at the tight end position with, uh, you know, Kyle Pitts and then Charlie Warner. So do you use more 12 personnel, but use Kyle Pitts as a split out wide, or purely in more route running versus like the inline blocking that we saw more of last year. Still wasn't a lot last year, but you
Yeah.
saw more of the traditional inline blocking from Kyle Pitts last year than you had his rookie year. So, do we go back to having more of the rookie style Kyle Pitts in the offense? Where if that's the case, then are you going to be doing the opposite, which is if Sean McVay is doing a lot of 12 personnel stuff out of 11, do we do a lot of 11 stuff out of 12? You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I think that's probably what you're going to do. You bring in Werner; he's going to be your extra offensive lineman for to give you better protection for 3 and 4 man routes with Pitts, Drake, Mooney, or Moore, and then either whether it's Tyler Algier or it's John or Jace. Any of those guys that go out into a route
Right.
somewhere. But I think he comes in and is the sixth offensive lineman to help protect Kirk. So you can still get 4 guys out.
Right. Yep. And
Uh,
well, yeah, like Millie, I get like he goes. Basically, I hope all these weapons don't overwhelm Z Rob, which is I guess a lot of Falcons fans kind of felt like that last 3 years where you had like Pitts, London, and then Bijan. It almost felt like each year you had to try to focus on justifying those picks by, oh, we're going to run the offense through them instead of creating a cohesive offense. Because that's, I think, what a
well,
lot of us felt like, right?
yeah, I can see why people would think that, but the good thing is that this current regime, outside of Terry Fontenot, right, but Raheem Morris, Jimmy Lake, Zach Robinson, all the Jimmy Grace here's, but by and large, like the top of the silos when it comes to the various parts of the actual team, they didn't draft these guys.
No, yeah.
They like they're not their guys.
They
So
should.
I don't think they have any kind of a thing where they're like, well, I picked this guy. I have to show why I picked this guy.
Right, right.
Now
And
they're just putting an offense together with weapons that are already there.
I think if there's like one major criticism that I had of Arthur Smith is that it did not seem like he could put together, whether it was because of bad QB play or what have you, it did not seem like he was able to put together a cohesive offense with the weapons that he had. Because it seemed like, oh God, we picked a tight end at 4. Nobody's ever done that. I got to prove why we did that. And then, oh, we picked a wide receiver, and the particular wide receiver we picked, I got to prove why we did that. And then you followed up with, we picked a running back at 8 when you don't pick running backs in the first round. I got to prove why he was such a, uh, such the right pick. And I think you could easily fall into that trap, especially when you have the media doing their job by, asking those type questions. Like, okay, you picked this guy. And that's why, in a sense, like, circle back around, I think it is like really bold by this regime and by this coaching staff, by everybody to do what they did at 8 and like stick to their convictions and and pick, like, yes, we've talked about like whether their strategy changed, because we've heard that said now that, oh, they were initially going to pick Latu at 8 and then try to come back up for Penix, but after uh QB started going off and the information that they were getting, with guys trying to come up, they felt like Penix wasn't going to be there, and they're probably right on that.
Yeah,
Seeing how the rest of the draft uh, unfolded, they're probably correct that Penix wouldn't have been there. So they felt like they were going to be able to trade back up for Latu. They wanted to walk into that press conference. You can't convince me otherwise. They wanted to walk into that press conference with Michael Penix and Leo Latu, and it just didn't come out that way.
yeah. It didn't.
Nobody come off that pick.
It didn't work out the same way that like you can say what you want to say, but like they have been trying this entire offseason to, it's like since free agency started through the draft, they have been trying to do everything they can to get a pass rusher in this building.
Yeah, an
Uh,
alpha pass rusher.
an alpha pass rusher. They've been trying to do it. Now it just hasn't worked out. Okay. And sometimes and again, I would much rather it be that we tried and it didn't work out because for whatever reason, then we've how many times have we seen in the past where we really, really tried a couple times didn't work out, and then next thing you know, we're paying exorbitant prices, like way overpaying somebody
Oh yeah.
to come in here and then they just end up like not being what we worth anything close to what we paid for them. So
For
if they have
folks,
like a certain price in mind and they stick
yeah,
with
right.
it, then cool.
For those who were talking about earlier, per Adam Schefter, the schedule will be released the 15th of May, which is next Wednesday. Is that right? Let's see. Yes, next Wednesday.
Yes.
So, kind of quote unquote breaking news a little bit there. I don't have any sounders for that, so you'll have to. Anyway, but yeah, here it is. The 15th of May. So we won't be talking about the schedule release. Well, maybe we'll get some leak stuff by then. Ricky Smith was asking, have we checked out Isaiah Wooden Senior's tape? I have not checked out. Is he one of the undrafted? I'm thinking he's one of the undrafted guys. I haven't dove like too deep into undrafted guys. I tend to wait till like camp to really get into that, which is, maybe something we talk about next week on the draft. I may, or not draft, on the draft. Good Lord. On the show, may see how this rookie mini camp goes, see who turns heads there. But let's see. Comments have slowed down quite a bit. Here we go. Millie says, I like the combo of Rook, Dorless, and Trice to make up for Latu. In this draft, like this was kind of a weird draft, right?
Yeah.
Once you got past the first round, like there wasn't like big disparities in like bridges between. There were a handful of guys that I would like to have gotten. Like I think Cooper DeJean would have been fun to add to the secondary. I really would have liked Ladd McConkey. That's just because that was one of my guys. But once you got into the second, third, fourth round, like all those guys seemed like they were talent wise on about the same level.
Yeah.
So yes, you didn't come away with a lot to, but I think Braylon Trice was a good value where you got him. Like I think as far as like getting a pass rusher who I think can be an impact, is he ever going to be like a double digit sack guy? He might give you one or two seasons where he sniffs close, but I
Braylon
think,
Choice.
yeah,
I
like
mean, you never know. Like for all we know, that
I mean, he was
like
a high pressure guy in college that could translate.
yeah, I mean, you get him in the right system, you get him in the right with the right coaches and the right support around him. Those pressures that maybe were eluding him. Maybe he gets that extra tick in the NFL.
Right.
And he gets those guys. So
I'll tell you this, like Dorless and Trice, I am excited about.
Super excited, but for
I'm
both
super excited about Dorless. I think he's a guy who can give you that positional versatility. And in a 3-4 front, I think he can line up, as if you put Eddie Goldman in the middle, we're just going to say Goldman survives training camp and makes an impact. You put him or that Zion Loge in the middle as like that big space eater and throw Dorless and on one edge and Trice. Like I could truly envision a front where you have Ebiketie and Trice on the same side and like Dorless on the other side. And that could be a lot of fun, John H. Is London really a wide receiver one? I think so.
yeah,
I think he has shown enough to be a Mike Evans type wide receiver. Like, is he DeAndre Hopkins? Is he Julio Jones? Is he always going to run past you like and absolutely like break you off? No, but is he going to be like I said? Like I could really envision him being like a Mike Evans type guy. From this point on, especially with competent quarterback play, I
yeah,
could definitely see him being, uh, a guy who you look up in 5 years and he's put together his fifth 1,000-yard receiving season in a row. Because like nobody, when we talk about elite receivers, nobody talks about Mike Evans being one of those, and he definitely is one of those elite guys. And so I
Yeah.
definitely feel like London could be in that mold of wide receiver one for us.
Yeah, I mean, and look, if he's not talked about as one of the elite guys towards the, because now you start to hear Mike Evans' name said,
Right.
right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
you didn't hear that just like even a couple of years ago, but in the middle of his crazy 12 what 1,000-yard seasons in a row or 1,200-yard seasons in a row or whatever it was, like he's put up a lot of yards
Dude, like
and
ridiculous. Like I think he's gone like it's either 9 or 10 seasons of 1,000 yards a season and
yeah.
like double digit touchdowns. Like he is, I hate it that he plays for Tampa Bay because holy Pete, like he's what you want,
Yep.
He's been durable. He's been uh like he's been the red zone weapon that you wanted because that was like one of the biggest knocks with Julio, right? Is there was only a few times in his career he actually had double digit touchdowns. So I say a few times. I'm probably wrong on that. I know there was a good 3 or 4 year stretch that we were on touchdown watch for Julio Jones.
Yeah, it was like
And so,
guy would come out have a great yardage wise season
yeah,
and then but have like 6 touchdowns.
right. And if there's one thing that's probably going to keep him, unfortunately for him, out of the Hall of Fame, it's going to be like that type of production. Uh, so let's see. John H follows it up with, "This show is awesome. Thank you, John. We feel
Thank
like
you.
this show is awesome too."
Yeah, we try to make it awesome, so I'm glad to hear we're at least somewhat successful on that.
There you go. Yeah, look, he says Evan burns AJ. Shit, Evans burns a lot of guys. Like he's just that deceptive, which I
Yeah.
think that's what like there was somebody. I wish I could find it.
You want to hear something crazy?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Julio Jones had double digit touchdowns exactly one time his entire career.
That's what I was thinking. I thought, okay, I
One, and
thought I
that
was
was
being
2012. He had 10 touchdowns, so he
yeah,
just made it to double digits. Past that, he's had 66 touchdowns for his career through 2023.
right, and a lot of it has to do with, um, you know, the amount of attention paid to him.
Oh yeah,
Uh, especially
he
down in the
he
red
was he
zone.
was the guy that would burn you over the top for these long catches, or he would hit you with like the crossing pattern, and he'd run for like 40, 50 yards, but then get caught like 10 yards outside the end zone.
Right.
And
Yep.
then at that point, everybody's on high alert and they're sending
Oh
like
yeah,
two and
yeah.
three
Like I
guys
mean,
his direction.
I was about to say how
And
many. Like there was that one meme where you have 3 guys bracketing Julio Jones. Like the game plan was like we ain't gonna let Julio Jones beat us.
yeah,
Like speaking of like Drake London as far as wide receiver. I'm not gonna play the video because I don't want to get absolutely killed. But this guy Jetpack Galileo talking about Drake London doing nice work here on vertical push on these end breaker routes. Clean separation. Because like the follow up was it was let Drake London cook. Because he is a strong guy who can win off the line of scrimmage.
yeah,
And I really do honestly believe that given uh, competent QB play, that he's going to turn a lot of heads. I guess is what I'm getting at. That's at least that's my thought anyway. Let's see. Okay, he says I think Rob from Alabama is good. Are you talking about? He's talking about the running back from Alabama, Jason McClellan. I think
yeah.
he's a guy, and I hate to say it like this, as much as I love, Tyler Algier, and I love Tyler Algier, and I don't think he's going to go anywhere. But Tyler Algier is going into his 3rd season.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tyler Algier is not going to get re-signed, right? Like we kind of
Maybe.
like for the most part, unless it's for like next to nothing. Like because now he's going to be I think truly in the like shadow of Bijan, which that's something that we're going to talk about. Hopefully, this have a video coming out this week about that. But now you're going to get to the point where your second back, as long as Bijan here, is going to be a steady rotation of fourth, fifth, sixth round guys. And I think that's what Jace McClellan is. He gives you every everything you could want in a second in a RB2. He's good at pass protection. He can catch coming out of the backfield. He's strong running in between tackles. He doesn't have what I would call the absolute talent to be RB1. Especially not when you have a guy like Bijan Robinson on the team. But as the league goes to more and more backs by committee, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what he is. He is a back by committee. Let's see. Yep. Avery Williams was listed as a running back under Arthur Smith. It'll be interesting to see if they put him back to corner, which is what he was when he got drafted.
It's just gonna be RTR because he's a returner.
And I think that's where he's going to get the most play is in the return game. So I think that it's I think that's where he makes his bones, especially if he comes back healthy, especially with this new kickoff, which is something I'm actually really excited about.
Yeah.
Millie says, and Drake is fast enough to get behind DB. So yeah, I agree, JR. Kirk just has to be Kirk. That's it. I think that once they get their timing down, I think he's going to be just fine, given the jump balls, because that's where you saw Drake excel. Was those contested catches and
yep.
And so
he was really good with contested catches. He was. What I'm excited to see is hopefully with Kirk now, Penix in a couple years, whatever. But Kirk this year, what I'm excited to see hopefully is they figure out ways to scheme guys open. Don't rely on them having to beat their guy every single time. I'm not saying don't have times where okay, you're gonna have to beat your guy to win this route. I'm not saying don't ever do that because you have to at some points, but you should be able to scheme guys open to the point where you get a Drake London coming across the middle and get him get him a pass that he can catch in stride, try to get him some yak after that because he's a really good after the catch runner, and I'd love to see him be used more for that. So.
No, and I completely agree that it is I would love to see him, especially on those in breaking routes, be able to cut across the middle. I imagine that they're going to probably implement a lot more mesh than what we saw Arthur use.
Which is crazy because when we did see it, it was awesome, and then he just never. Then he'd go whole games without using it. I'm like,
right, yep. There were things that definitely left you scratching your head. Like it was a preseason game last year, I think it was, where they had a really awesome innovating way. They did like this mesh, and then immediately broke up, and it went in for a touchdown, and then you never saw it in the season. There were a handful of examples like that. Let's see. Bobby D. Blassingame. Bobby D. Blassingame. I love that name, dude. That's awesome.
That is a good name.
It says, "There's no mess, fellas." Talking about my title. We're an advantage under a category of success now. Sustainability will be the goal, and we will go get it. That's the point. And yes, the title was a little misleading, but that's kind of what you're supposed to do in these things, right? Is try to grab some attention, but it was more talking about just how the national media right now can't get the Falcons jock out of their mouth. You know what I'm saying? And it's always oh, we're only going to talk about the Falcons if it's some way to smear their face in something. When to me, there's much bigger or not bigger, but much more controversial QB talk that could be had. Like you could
Look,
talk about. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm totally fine with the night like the when that pick is made and you hear people that are like, what is going on?
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally fine with the next day, like you get the reporting and people are like, I still haven't quite wrapped my head around it. I don't understand the pick, this and that, and the other, or even just saying like we think it's a bad pick. They should have gone here and done this. Totally fine with that.
Right.
We're talking a week later now,
Yeah. Exactly.
week and a
Right.
half later now,
And you're still.
and you got people that are milking this because it's just like anything else, negativity sells.
Yep.
And just
And
like
look, negative like car crashes or train wrecks and sex. Those two things are going to get you money regardless. Like people can't not look at it. And so that's right now, they have spun the narrative that the Falcons are the train wreck. And I just don't think I don't think they are. I don't see it. Like because you can't say to me that even though I was one of the ones that was advocating for an impact player, you can't guarantee me any of those guys picked in the first round are impact. Like I briefly had thought about, granted, we're glad we didn't do it because I think it actually would have been boring content. But I thought about going through like the last few drafts and be like, all right, like tell me which one of these guys was amazing. And there have been some, obviously, like a Justin Jefferson. There are a few there, but holy Pete, there's plenty of guys that you're like, oh man, I forgot that dude was even in the league. Or I
yeah,
forgot that dude even got picked and he got picked in the first round. We could
yeah,
do that kind of stuff all day long. And so I'm not necessarily too terribly concerned about it.
yeah,
I like Bijan Homeboy says 2 good quarterbacks is better than 0. Now there's a prevailing thought that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any. But
yeah.
I think that's if you're trying to play 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah,
Like what we did last year.
if you're trying to pull either like a high school or college
Yeah.
thing where it's like this guy comes out and he starts the series and then like for a play you pull him out and then you put in this quarterback and then he plays a couple plays and then you pull him out and then but it's not in a the way that New Orleans does with what's his face
Tyson Hill. Believe you
Taysom
me,
Hill.
like I hope they don't have a package for Penix. No,
No.
just look. The only way I want to see Penix on the field this year is what Fred Bus is bringing up here. What if Kirk gets hurt? Who looks stupid then? I ain't even worried about that aspect of it. But to me, that's the only way I want to see Penix on the field this year is if Kirk gets hurt. Because
Yep.
if Kirk doesn't get hurt, then I want them to enact their plan. I don't care about the being 27 years old when he finally gets to start. All that's just a number at this point. If if you can get 3 years out of Penix or 3 years out of Kirk and 10 to 12 years out of Penix, guess what? You just matched the playing length and probably production of Matt Ryan. That's a franchise quarterback, and I am so not mad at that. What I
Yeah.
didn't want to do, and what we have just dealt with for the past 2 years, is QB purgatory. And you see what QB purgatory has gotten us 2 years, 7-10 in a weak NFC South division. Like we have let Carolina retool with a potentially better head coach that might be able to fix Bryce Young. You have let Tampa Bay potentially find a longer term solution at QB while still retooling that. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
you have missed an opportunity these past 2 years to be able to get into the playoffs and make some noise because you took a chance and you missed.
Huh?
The chance that you took was, okay, I think we've seen enough out of Desmond Ritter to let him start. Okay. That was
And I
your
agree.
mistake.
I agree with it. I'm not,
Look, I said from word go, I hope one of those guys hit. And I was talking about Mariota or Ritter. I was hoping Mariota could have resurrected his career. or Ritter could have hit because that would have solved the problem. Neither one
Yep.
of them happened, which is where we're at today. Tony
Yep.
Wright, our good buddy, says, "Good evening, JR and Jonathan."
Evening.
All right. What's up, Tony? He says our defense is shaping up to be very good and very deep. I believe Goldman will make the team as the backup nose tackle to David Onyemata. It'll be interesting to see how they deploy Onyemata, if they deploy him at nose tackle. I know he did that from time to time down in New Orleans. So I think we do have now, especially with Zion Loge in the fold, I think you now have some really good depth at nose tackle.
Yeah.
I feel much better about the nose tackle position before better than I did before the draft. So that's something I am looking forward to see how all that goes. Yeah, he's yeah, Onyemata, Goldman, and then nose tackle Loge puts us in good shape.
Yeah, you do that, and then you have then you have if so Onyemata is your nose tackle. Probably starting defensive ends are Grady Jarrett and Zach Harrison or Taquan Graham. Those will be your 3-4 defensive
Yeah,
ends,
your
and
D
then
four
on the
three defensive end.
outside you'll have Ebiketie and Trice, but probably I would assume Carter will probably be the starter.
Yeah, I would imagine that Carter is the starter. John had a good question. He says, if you could trade Kirk Cousins and his contract for TJ Watt right now, would you? I don't think so. Like, and as much as I want a fire breather alpha dude coming off the edge, and I want that. We have seen like how many Super Bowl rings did TJ Watt have on his hand currently?
Yeah, I mean, like, look at
It sucks, but it's the truth.
They for one, TJ Watt has shown a tendency to be injured quite often so far in his NFL career. For one, two, even when he makes it through an entire season, yeah, their defense looks amazing. Their offense looks like crap, and if they don't have that offense to go along with it, then at the end of the day, boom. Now you might say, okay, well we got Pitt, but I feel much more comfortable starting this season with Kirk Cousins and maybe even the season after this one. Starting those 2 seasons with Kirk Cousins, assuming everything goes the way that goes according to plan, and at the very least, Kirk Cousins does his job, right?
Right.
As long as he does his job, then the rest will figure itself out, and then start Penix in 2026. Like if we can get to 2026 and then have Penix start, I think we'll be able to reap so much more from this.
I'll throw out a crazy scenario, like Cousins plays well this year, like shows you no reason not to trust him and not to keep it. Like if next year is as bad as they say it is, as far as QB play coming out of the draft, who's to say that you don't trade Penix and recoup multiple first round picks for him, especially if he balls out in the preseason? I'm not saying it's going to happen. Don't call me crazy. It's just I could see, especially if we lose some picks because of the tampering or whatever, you roll all this stuff together. So, but I don't know. It could be interesting. So, but yeah, it's going to be fun. We got rookie minicamp coming up this weekend, so we should have some fun things to talk about. Next show, keep guess I'm gonna go ahead and start wrapping this thing up. I think I hear a battle going on out in my living room that I might need to step up into and be dad in. We'll see.
I mean,
hey, sometimes
I'm trying. I don't want to catch any strays.
Look, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just, you gotta do what you gotta do. But like I said, next week we got the what you call it?
Rookie
minicamp talk about. And hey man, Fred's even talking about, hey, maybe somebody gives us a lion's share for Cousins and maybe he don't want to look over his shoulder. Who knows? I don't care. But you never know what could transpire. Keep your eye on the channel because we're gonna try to have a video out this week or this weekend. Yep. Possibly. We'll see how it goes. Don't promise anything. But we will be back live next Tuesday.
So Saturday I'm gonna try to I'll send something out Saturday. If I'm for sure going to do it. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna say going forward, if it's going to happen, it's going to be on Saturdays. If come by, hang out again. Talk Falcons, talk NFL, talk
Well,
MLB. Although I
no, I'm
don't
about to
know.
say Millie wants to know if with the NCAA dropping this summer in July, what team would you be rocking with?
I mean, if I had to pick one team that I'm rocking with, it's going to be the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
There
That's
it
what
is.
I'm a Georgia Tech fan. Have been. I was born being a Georgia Tech fan because my dad was. So
There it is.
I will always be a Georgia Tech fan. I just haven't followed it as closely probably the last decade or so. But I've heard good things about the current coach.
They got a relatively interesting QB. I like watching him play. Last name's
So,
King, I believe.
well, the biggest problem is like just trying to actually watch them.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
watching, especially Georgia Tech is a crapshoot at best. So
Right. All right, folks. We appreciate y'all. As always, y'all can follow me on Twitter at McGrimm1128, GRIMM1128. Jonathan.
at Jonathan M. Holder, come by, say hi, and come on by Saturday to talk Falcons
There
or
it
talk
is.
college football a little bit. So
There you go. All right, folks. Y'all take care. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
rise up.